Well, it's that spooky time of year again. There's been a trend on YouTube over the last decade or so where creators will talk about things that scarred them as children. I believe it was started by the YouTuber YourMovieSucks.org. So I thought for this Halloween I would talk about my own childhood traumas. Moments that kept childhood me up at night. And one of the first times I remember doing that was when I was 5 years old. Growing up, I adored Disney movies. They were some of my favorite movies to watch. I would actively seek out their older library too. Whenever we had a movie night, I would ask for Disney movies, especially ones I'd never seen, which eventually led to us watching The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, an anthology film that adapts the story of The Wind in the Willows and The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, which ended up being my introduction to both of these classics. Unfortunately, the Sleepy Hollow portion totally traumatized me. I vividly remember it being the first time I ever slept with the lights on, but it tells the story of Ichabod Crane, a man who moves to a new town to be their school teacher. He seeks the affection of the local farmer's daughter, Katrina, both because he thinks she's attractive, but also because she's rich. He's a bit of a gold digger, honestly.
Katrina, Papa's only child. Papa. Well, the old goat can't take it with him, and when he cuts out, that's where I cut in.
And he can be underhanded. Like when he's first introduced, he's shown helping the baker out by opening a door for her when she has her hands full, only for it to be revealed that he swiped one of her pastries, along with a lot of other things. Not exactly the kind of hero we're used to seeing in Disney movies, but he's the one we got. He has a rival in Bram Bones, another man who's vying for Katrina's affections. Ichabod is able to stay ahead of him though, and constantly humiliates him, but Bran is able to get his revenge by explaining the fact that Ichabod is extremely superstitious. At a Halloween party hosted by Katrina's father, he tells the story of the Headless Horseman, a terrible specter who haunts the night trying to find a replacement head for the one he lost. He also explains that the only way to escape the Headless Horseman is to cross the bridge over the brook. Eventually, the party ends very late, with the narration specifying that Ichabod leaves the party at the witching hour, which is like 3 in the morning. Personally, I would have stayed the night at that point, but I guess we need the story to happen. But really quick before I get into all that, I did want to shout out my upcoming comic book. Em and I have been working on this project for quite a while now. It's a science fiction story called Shadow Paradox. It's about a man named Jason who's lived his entire life in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Monsters roam the wastes of a once great city, but his mentor and father figure, Dr. Gray, has invented a time machine to hopefully stop this apocalypse from ever happening. Once in the past, he has to gather allies, find out the mystery behind these monsters, and save the future. We plan on releasing it later this year, so subscribe to the channel if you want to see more updates. Thanks for hearing me out, this project means a lot to us. And we finally come to the infamous and spookiest part of the tale, where Ichabod has to ride through the hollow to get home, the exact hollow that's haunted by the Headless Horseman. And I have to admit, the atmosphere in this scene is really well done. The clouds surrounding the moon in the shape of a hand, like the horseman is snuffing out all the light. And they do a great job of building tension here. We get multiple fake-outs before the horseman is finally revealed. And when it does happen, he's such a menacing presence. Rewatching this scene as an adult, there's actually a lot of comedy sprinkled throughout the scene as well, which admittedly went over my head as a kid, but it's an interesting balance where it doesn't take away from how scary the horseman really is, as he wildly swings at Ichabod, desperately trying to take him. Ichabod and the horse he's riding, Gunpowder, desperately try to escape the Headless Horseman, but their fear and paranoia causes them to run into shenanigans, and also run directly into the horseman. But after a pretty grueling chase, Ichabod does make it to the bridge that offers sanctuary. He crosses it thinking he's finally safe, and the horseman does stop at the edge of the bridge, but he ends up throwing his flaming jack-o'-lantern head across the bridge. That morning, the villagers find nothing of Ichabod except for his hat next to a smashed pumpkin, with multiple theories about what could have happened to him. The original story by Washington Irving also leaves it up to interpretation. Some argue that Ichabod did survive but left the town in disgrace, and eventually married a wealthy woman, but others believe that he was a victim of the Headless Horseman. There's also a third theory that Bran was the one in disguise as the Headless Horseman, and chased Ichabod away. Since now that the schoolmaster is gone, he does marry Katrina, but it looks like like Disney avoided that route. There's a part where Ichabod looks down the neck of the Headless Horseman and is absolutely horrified by what he sees. Yeah, I don't think there's a guy in there. But needless to say, this whole thing deeply traumatized me for years to come. Although rewatching it, I do think it holds up pretty well. The animation, atmosphere, and storytelling are all very well done. Bing Crosby as a narrator also did a phenomenal job, both in narrating the story and providing voices for some of the characters. So even though it left me deeply scarred, I can respect it for what it is, and I think it has a lot of merit. I can't really say for sure for the next entry on my list, considering the fact that I technically never saw it, and I have no intention of changing that. This next one isn't actually a piece of media I saw, but a commercial for a piece of media that I probably shouldn't have seen in the first place, considering that it's not advertised to children at all, and that being a commercial for the X-Files. You see, back when I was a kid, I had a TV in my room, and every night as I crawled into bed, I would turn it on and fall asleep to the TV. I used to watch old movie musicals like Singing in the Rain, among other things. But during one of the commercial breaks, they played an advertisement for an upcoming X-Files episode, where they're investigating a man being skinned alive. I actually managed to find the exact commercial I saw as a child. Content warning, by the way. You can skip to this timestamp if you're not interested in watching it. But yeah, here it is.
There are episodes of the X-Files you shouldn't watch alone.
This man was skinned alive.
This is one of them.
There's another victim. Agent Doggett may be in danger.
FBI, stop there! The X-Files.
You can't stop it.
All new at 9/8 Central Fox Sunday. Viewer discretion advised.
So imagine you're a small child in bed trying to unwind with some TV, and then this commercial comes on. I did not sleep that night. Unlike The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, mostly because it's Disney, I have absolutely no intention of ever watching this episode, ever. And honestly, just watching that commercial again put a pit in my stomach. It brought me back to when I was a kid in the worst way possible. Anyway, the last instance I want to talk about is Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And I think the issue with this movie was the fact that I was probably too young when I watched it. Who Framed Roger Rabbit is an animation live-action hybrid, and many people, my parents included, kind of got the wrong reading from this movie. You see, it opens with this very Looney Tunes style short. There's a lot of slapstick comedy, and many assumed it was just another cartoon. So they put this on for us when we were only 3 years old. However, once the movie gets going, there's a lot of very dark and mature themes, including a bunch of stuff that totally went over my head. Like, I didn't understand why people were making such a big deal of Jessica playing patty cake, because I didn't know what a metaphor was yet. The main plot of Who Framed Roger Rabbit is that Roger has been framed for murder. Again, not appropriate material for a 3-year-old, but there are multiple people working the case. One of them being Judge Doom, a cruel and corrupt judge from Toontown, who has a vendetta against Toons, and only got the job because of corrupt dealings. The animated characters in this world known as Toons are virtually indestructible, but Doom has a special concoction made specifically to destroy Toons, which are made up of actual materials that are used to erase art, which is admittedly kind of a neat touch. Except he demonstrates it on this poor little shoe. It's not a quick death either, he prolongs it. And the poor thing is screaming in pain the entire time. Even the characters in the movie are pretty horrified by this, but they do nothing to try to stop it. Needless to say, watching this innocent creature die horribly was not good for my child psyche. And this isn't the only scene that bothered me from this movie. Another scene that stuck with me as a kid was the scene where R.K. Maroon gets murdered, because there wasn't enough murder in this movie already. But in this case, the protagonist of the film, Eddie Valiant, is also investigating this murder, so he interrogates R.K. Maroon, the owner of a movie studio. Valiant goes to confront him about the murder, and things get heated, resulting in Eddie trapping him by putting his tie into a film holder in the nearby camera. But then Valiant notices they're not alone. There's a gunman in the room with them. Eddie manages to dodge the bullets in time, but Maroon is trapped there, and he ends up getting shot in the back twice. And they even show his lifeless body just hanging there off the camera. It's surprisingly a more realistic scene given this movie, which has a lot of slapstick and fantastical elements. Like the other humans that are killed in this movie have a safe dropped on their head or a piano, but in this case a guy just gets shot in the back. And it really stuck with me as a kid. Just him being trapped and helpless, and then being shot and left there. It's an intense scene. And then there's just Judge Doom in general. Christopher Lloyd did an amazing job with his performance. He's so creepy and menacing, and he really knows how to get under your skin. While I do admire Who Framed Roger Rabbit, I think it's a technical marvel, and it's really funny and has a lot of heart. But I'm not going to lie, as a child it really messed me up. Well, I think that's enough trauma for now. Thanks so much for watching my video. What are some pieces of media from your childhood that left you traumatized? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And I hope you have a happy and safe Halloween. Before I go, I want to give a shout out to our members: Tyrant Carnivore, Shiny Orc Boy, Depth Charge Media, Samaru163, Gabby Hime, Verdant Range, JVR, Equestron, Norman Sweet Cream, Way Beyond Coincidence, Hunter Rose, 80s Nostalgia Guy, Felix Spam, J Draws, Meowsers, Sky, Philip, Isaac Martinez, Garcia XV Legend, Tobias Weller, Bandito Bane, Mac B909, Dakari the Professor, Omni Fair, J Cavalry, Strider Exile, Phil C, Killer Bomb, Slawa Saporiguez, Entwine Boot 301, Frankie Camarillo, Crimson Phantom, Jin the Goblin, Daunter, G-Rock, Lucas Geist, Papa Hud 69, The Gengar King, and Snoopy Von Snoops. Thank you all so much for the support, and if you would like to become a member, you can hit the join button next to the subscribe button. We also have Buy Me Coffee if you want to support us that way. And if you enjoyed the video, you can leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and that part's free. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.